Richard Moon, you are on.
Love being here with you. Love that we're all here together. Let's go ahead, if you'd like, stand. I want to say in terms of bowing, you should always be bowing. And if you think about it, every time you exhale, there's a little bow there. And I like to think of every one of those as a bow to the universe. As though Sensei said, when you bow to the universe, it bows back to you. When you call out the name of the divine, it echoes inside of you. So I always start with listening to the impulse to breathe. Now, if I'd asked you to take a deep breath, you could do that, and we would say that was you breathing. Now, when you listen to this impulse, should we call that you? How should we talk about that? And I'd like to say there's a volitional or intentional aspect of you that breathes when I say take a deep breath and you do it. And then there's I'm going to use a cheap word here, autonomic, because I don't know what it means, aspect of yourself that breathes when you're not thinking about it. And I want to say that you can start to bring those together by paying attention to your experience, listening to the impulse to breathe. And I love to say, not hearing the impulse, not sitting and watching yourself have an impulse, listening, like listening to it. And then you can start to get into a dialogue with it and speak to it and be part of it. And then the two of you become something else again. So I'm going to come in close and I'm going to ask you to just begin to let yourself feel any movement that you would like to feel. And if you'd like to go ahead and express that movement. I thought where Susan took us, set this up, this whole connection of feeling, as I call it, the most undervalued word in the English language. As you start to feel, it's a portal, a doorway, a travel device. It's a doorway into a completely different realm. And as you let go of thought, and please stay with your practice of letting yourself move, but I want to come in close so my words are clearer, and let your movement expand and express more. And I like the waking up in the morning practice, and I also like the drums practice. And I just like to play with letting that movement start to come through. And like the connection with the breath, what's important to me here is that you're connecting to something direct in your own experience. I don't care how we want to talk about it, which you it is, the two yous together, 1 + 1 = 1. Something that's happening in you at this moment, your true north, your bestowed mission, your expression of Takemuso, the divine birth of creativity. And let that come through in movement. And when the movement wants to slow down, let it. When it wants to go back into activity. So I want to say love gives birth to harmony. Harmony brings forth joy. And joy is the greatest treasure. And that was what I understood was Sensei's Aikido and 3Z lessons. And it's why, for me, the mat practice was always in service of that larger connection. And I never worried that much about the mat or the techniques or and I knew there was something for me on the martial side. I pursued it. But to me, it was about this. The secret of Aikido is to harmonize yourself with the movement of the universe. Now, I don't know what that means. And going off and thinking about it doesn't seem highly valuable to me. But feeling yourself moving with the impulse to breathe, which is your aliveness, which is your life force, which is your spirit, your direct connection to the totality. Okay? So he said, if you do not blend with the emptiness of the pure void, you will never know the path of Aiki. And I want to say, and if you blend, as you blend with the impulse to breathe, you can start to lead. You can begin to play with this force of life, this power, this possibility that you're given. Okay? Once you blend, you can lead, but it's not the same you. And that's what's so important, I think, in the practices, if you could see what Susan was teaching there, what Bob's been teaching, what everyone's been showing to some large degree. And really where Ken started with just going into this, you begin to transition into a different relationship to the totality. And I'm going to say for language, that's not the same you. Now, when he said about love, he said, as I, harmony, is common with I, love, I decided to name my unique Budo Aikido. Although the word Aiki is an old one, the word which was used by warriors in the past is fundamentally different than that of mine. And so I want to warn you in the same way, I'm going to play with using words in different ways. I told Ken I like the story of a woman arguing with some gentleman in the street, and he says, you ought to consult the dictionary. And she says, what for? It's my language. So we're going to create some maybe different ways of playing with it. I want to go back to the breath and the movement that's starting to happen here. And it should just work for you because it works for you. And there's nothing else that has to happen there. And if nothing's happening, stand. Just like I say, if you can't feel the impulse to breathe, just don't breathe for a moment. And I think you will. Okay. So this is the way I like to wake up and work a lot. And if you understood at my age now, this is good enough. But then I can take it into my basic imaginary uke. Oh, here comes a showman strike, Yurimi Nage. Oh, here comes another one. Oh, Kota Gaeshi. And it's 50 years for me, folks. It's getting old. I mean, it's beautiful and I love it and I appreciate it. But like the breath, I studied pranayama for years. I could give you 100 breathing exercises, but that's why I come back. You just listen to your impulse to breathe. You start to make that connection. The universe will bow back to you. It will echo inside of you, and you'll feel it in your quality. So as you bow to the universe in your exhale and just relax and release a little bit, the muscle's automatic. So I call it a line with the force of gravity, whatever. I like to play with 1 foot when I'm on a good day, 2 when I'm not so good. But whatever it takes to get you into this place where you can just let into it and let that downward sinking force just sink open, as my friend Chris Thorson calls it. Settle open, as my instructor Robert Legault calls it. I like to go sink open, settle, open, sink, open, settle, open. Play the game and just let that happen. And then at this point, I start to bring in my randori, my imaginary ukes in unexpected attacks. A guy coming in here, you could just see it striking from my head, and I move my head just slightly off the line. So I bring my hand up to guide his hand just by me. I'm into this place, grab him by the hair, tip his neck back. No, I won't crush his throat here. I'll just Yurimi Nage him. And I play those games. So here comes another one in this side with a Yoko type with a beer bottle in his hand. Strike to the side of the head. Now, you can take one, make up one for yourself right now, and just grab somebody and brutalize them a little bit. And then do it again and see if you can move a little more in harmony with them, a little less frightened, if you will, a little less aggressive, and still more in control of the situation. Okay? And I just have these people as kick coming down there, so I brush it by, take it back, take the leg up, throw the guy into the corner. I hope you're having fun with your own ukes and stuff like that, right? And so I'll bring in 2 or 3. I'll do those games. I practice my gravity shadow to the point where everything I do has a quality of impact that means something. And I have a lot of fun because that's really what I came here to do. I was never that interested in the martial side, a little. God knows I went and trained with all the guys, but I've always been, that I loftily call it, an artist, someone who plays with art, with creativity, with that connection with the divine force and letting it express through us. And so letting yourself share who you are, all right? So I want to take one more round with our movement here and talk about some of the other ways that I like to play. And then obviously in 30 minutes, all I can do is show them to you for a minute and you'll do it if you want, touch in if you need more guidance. But to me, again, this sense of letting what's unique to you in your own experience at this moment in time be fully felt, to really feel where you are, to really harmonize with it, non-resistance, complete non-resistance to whatever's flowing through you at the moment, and letting it express, so that when you're in the world, who you are expresses. And like Ken was saying, you know, you're in a place here where you express it more and more harmoniously, more and more effectively, less and less discord or whatever. You're creating reciprocating echoes that through your loving spirit create more harmony in the world, and we all enjoy ourselves more instead of spending, you know, whatever percentage of our national debt on weapons and defense, and really more importantly, whatever aspect or percentage of our own personal energy we spend on defensiveness or pretense or whatever, okay? So last phase of the movement, what I like to do when I can get past needing to stretch and my paranoid delusions about all my imaginary attackers, which represent, Sensei said, winning over the discord in your own mind. In Marin, we call that my stinking expletive deleted attitude. And, you know, just getting that into a place where I felt better and always, like I say, I don't think anyone ever had more fun on the mat than I did. A lot of play. I don't mean to say more than anyone else, but I don't think anyone else had more. I just had the most beautiful time and this expression of this connection with this energy, which, you know, I came in out of yoga knowing that. So the last part of our movement now is just absolute free space. Let's take a quick minute, dive back down from our, whatever we were there, martial artist and let another kind of movement come out. I'm gonna put some music on in the background. We're just gonna go for a minute or two. But I just want you to practice that sense of letting free form space come out, not needing a partner, not needing an audience, not needing to go to a club, not just you anytime you want. And you know, you can do it without the music. And here I let go of most of the martial stuff that I usually am conscious of when I'm doing my attackers. And now I'm just dancing, and maybe there are partners, I'm dancing with them, but it's just motion that has no meaning other than how it feels to me. And it's your turn. Have your fun, we're just gonna do it for a minute. So, if anyone's stopping you, dance with them. That's Aikido. Hope you're having fun. All right. Do a last standing minute. And any movement that completes this phase for you. I guess I'd go back to kind of where Susan was, where Ken was starting that same thing of just kind of getting into a better place with yourself And my thing I want to add to what Susan was playing with, where you call up the next dimension. I have an approach I take, which is I square away with this dimension until the universe is bored with me being here, and the next dimension starts to show up. Now, they're really just two portals, two windows, two ways of talking about. Come across some interesting information of late that just talks about stuff we know. It's not new information to us, but the way they speak about it both confirms and I think sort of expands the understanding. Easy, the eye, open and settle. Okay, so the latest stuff is as we go into a situation, we either move towards it, expanding into it as if it were a challenge. Oh boy, let me run the race and win. Or we see it as a threat, and then we begin to close down in a different way. So I think you all know all this. And it's why that sense of we go, oh yeah, easy the eye, you just get to a better place. And back to what Ken was saying a lot, and I talked a lot about this in the 3 Easy Lessons tape, that when you enter into a situation in a positive way, you've changed the situation already. And I'm talking back into the world. I don't get into fights, but I'm in a lot of negotiations with people and coming in a spirit that says, you know, I'd like this to be good. And I'm sure we can do something, you know, in a positive, that whatever that energy is, that quality of just, and that comes out, as Ken was saying, because I'm, now the words are funny, comfortable with myself. Well, what does that mean? That means that I'm letting myself be who I am. I'm just able to share who I am. But that's not me in some little place, what they call the default mode network, the I, running off on these trips about what's going on. It's me in an experiential state at a connection to my own gravity shadow at a level of totality that's secure enough that it doesn't have to be aggressive because it's not operating out of fear. It's just here in a way of, you know, I'm going to hit the nail to pound the nail in. I'm not angry at the nail. I'm just doing whatever needs to happen in that moment as precisely and effectively as I can, because I've done the process Susan was doing. I'm in my best operating place, and I'm starting to connect to something now that hits that realm where, you know, when Bob says it's like you can't exactly feel it now, are we sensing something? And I'd say, let's play with that borderline for a minute in your own experience of when you feel into who you are, and I'm gonna come back to Bob, said yourself, to be present as self. What does that mean to you? You know, and what's your experiential experience of that process? I don't want what you think about it. I want to know. And I want to know, I mean, I want you to just be in that sense of feeling your true self, present as self. And then this thing about, he said, unwind. And the thing that was really interesting was in this one study, and I'm not sure how much I believe the science of it, but like Black Elk said, whether or not this happened, I don't know. But if you look, you can see that it's true. Anyhow, they said in the face of good emotions, the DNA began to unwind. And Bob's always in that thing where he's twisted the OB belt, you know, whatever, and then talked about us getting wrapped up in that way. And I think Moonsensei said, calm the spirit, return to the source. I just say sink, open, settle into the opening, and be in the experience. Give all your attention to what you're feeling. And that's why I say most undervalued word in the English language. That feeling process is what guides you. If you've ever seen the Seven Samurai, the scene where they're testing the samurai when they come into the hut and the guy's hiding behind the door with the stick or whatever. That sense of awareness that was developed at a whole other level of being than what the conscious self could ever do. It's a proximity sense, a magnetic sense of being. You can feel it in yourself, and you do feel it when someone gets too close to you or anything like that. So this process of connecting with yourself, best operating place, both asking for and knowing that whether you ask for it or not, the next dimension of you is knocking. And it may not be that fixed as a dimensional barrier or something, but it's just you're starting to feel more something and begin to be in harmony with that and bring that forward in a way that is in harmony with the rest of the universe, and then share who you are. Put your note into the symphony. Okay, play your note beautifully and make the symphony brilliant and gorgeous and fantastic. And that's what I think comes out of this process. So kind of coming back a little bit more to where Ken started, the more you are aligned, the more that volitional and autonomic aspects, or the male and masculine and feminine, or the yin and the yang, or the divine and the mundane aspects become a unified field of being. And I always check with the gravity shadow, because the tendency to go, yeah, that would, man, that, okay. Back to this. And I grab a couple of imaginary ukes, put in my arms, try and lift me up, and I just connect to the gravity shadow all the way to the center of the earth, and whatever. Exercises that help you shift into the quality of connection with yourself. All right. So I'm back to whatever the two aspects are. What I understand in the terminology of standing on the floating bridge, unifying the mundane and the divine, being that bridge that is both at the same time, or both and neither at the same time. And you can tell it's happening. I think back to where Ken started to, and then Susan was talking about that shift. For a second, my friends, you just aren't sure. And that's the place where either it becomes a threat and you start to talk about it, think about it, go study it, avoid it, whatever. Or you recognize that this is your life force that you're connecting with, that you are. When we shift from that identity to the essential self, it comes through in an effortless and a beautiful way. And all that movement in, I think that what Sensei left us, and certainly this process, Bob's been working with the energy and all his different explanations or explorations or practices that have, the one by ones and on, Bob Robert, so on. A beautiful depiction of the fact that you're not a limited person. You're not really who you think you are. And no one knows, what was your name before your parents were born? As you start to play into that, I think Ken said the same, just a complete emptiness of the pure void. Then you're allowed to come forward new, and you can always take that old suit of clothes and put it back on. It's always there. But I think as you start to play with this, less and less would you want to, and more do you recognize that letting go of whatever you think and your stinking expletive deleted attitude or the discord in your own mind, and you start to move into this, it transforms how you feel, transforms how you interact in the world. It transforms the reciprocating echoes that you generate in the world. And I don't know how much more you can do at this point. So I think on that note, I'll stop. Lauren, how would you like to finish this?
Okay, so thank you so much, Richard. And I haven't danced in years, so thank you.